There is a kind of mistake that destroys even the strongest people. Not a mistake in calculation, but a mistake in kindness. You help, you give, you endure, and you believe that makes you a good person. But to Machiavelli, that isn't compassion. It's a weakness, wearing the mask of morality. He warned centuries ago, it is not your enemies who destroy you, it is the ones you try to save. Society glorifies selflessness, but power never belongs to those who don't know their limits. Because every time you save someone who refuses to change, you betray your own intelligence. Some people don't need to be helped. They need to be allowed to fall, because if you pull them up, they will pull you down with them. Machiavelli called it benevolent foolishness, a sickness of the strong, a disease that makes the capable lose their throne because they're too afraid to turn their back on the weak. Listen carefully. This might be the hardest truth you'll ever hear. Kindness has limits, and if you don't set them, the world will. Today we face a truth most people run from. Not everyone deserves your kindness, because in this world, mercy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. There are 6 kinds of people, and if you try to save them, you will pay with your energy, your reputation, and your soul. If this truth already hits you, comment below. I protect my power because awareness is the first act of strength. Number 1. The chronically lazy. Number 1. The chronically lazy. There's a kind of person who can drain even the strongest souls, not because they're cruel, but because they're weak, and they want you to carry that weakness for them. They complain, they lament, they tell stories of how unfair life is, how everything feels too hard. You pity them, you help them, you think you're doing something noble. But Machiavelli would simply smile and say, you're not helping them. You're feeding a parasite, those who strive to use their hand as a step to rise. But the lazy use it as a hammock to rest. One side feels gratitude, the other entitlement. One stands, the other stays down. They know exactly how to make you feel pity. Their stories have just enough tears, just enough tragedy to make you hesitate to walk away. But here's the truth. They don't suffer because of fate. They suffer because of choice. And kindness toward those who refuse to change is a slow knife cutting through your own self-respect. Listen carefully. Every time you rescue the lazy, you're not helping them. You're betraying yourself. When you give someone more than they deserve, you're teaching them how to exploit you. The lazy are masters of emotional blackmail. Help them once. They know you're soft. Help them twice. They know you fear saying no. Help them 3 times. They know you can't stop. At that point, you're no longer helping. You're paying the price for the image of the good person you built for yourself. They know how to make you feel like their savior. Without you, I'd be lost. Just this once. But you and I both know, this once is never the last. Every time you save them, you destroy their natural evolution. You make them believe they can live without effort. And when they fall again, they learn nothing except that someone will always rescue them. That's the moment you become a slave to your own kindness. Stop and ask yourself, are you helping them rise or keeping them comfortably broken? In nature, a mother bird doesn't feed a grown chick that refuses to fly. An ancient tree doesn't feed a dying branch. Not out of cruelty, but because nature protects order through discipline. Humans are the only species foolish enough to think that saving others from consequences is love. Machiavelli would say, love without boundaries is just foolishness romanticized. The lazy must feel hunger. They must hit bottom. They must hurt enough to rise. If you shield them from that pain, you steal the only moment that could awaken their survival instinct. You're not helping them live. You're helping them die more slowly. Let that sink in. Sometimes mercy is the slowest form of cruelty. Many people help not because they are good, but because they fear the guilt of not helping. That's not compassion. It's weakness dressed as morality. You don't want them to suffer, but you also can't face your own darkness, the part of you that enjoys being needed. Machiavelli once said, "The weak never see the true nature of kindness, that it is a tool, not an obligation. And when this tool is used wrong, it becomes a weapon against you." So ask yourself, is your kindness a gift or a chain? The lazy know exactly how to exploit that fear. They don't beg, they perform. They don't threaten, they make you feel guilty. And you, desperate to keep your image as the good person, surrender under the weight of empathy. Cutting them off isn't hatred. It's saying, I respect your path of learning, but I won't walk it for you. When you pull your hand away, you're not abandoning them. You're giving them back the responsibility they've avoided. Because in Machiavelli's world, every relationship is an exchange of energy. If one side only takes while the other only gives, that's not love. That's spiritual enslavement. Write this down. You weren't born to carry others forever. You were born to define the limits of your kindness. Sometimes the most powerful lesson you can give someone is silence. Ask yourself, without me, what would they do? The answer always reveals the truth. If they could stand, they already would have. If they truly wanted to change, they wouldn't still be waiting for you. Every time you save them, you're not helping. You're voting for their stagnation. The wise know the more you help, the more you lose. Not money, but respect. The lazy don't respect those who help them. They despise them because deep down, they know they've made you submit. And when someone makes you act against reason, they've already won. Listen, this is your wake-up call. Mercy without intelligence is a slow suicide. One day you'll have to do the hardest thing. Not explain, not apologize, just withdraw. No harsh words, no arguments. Just step out of the cycle. That isn't cruelty. It's awakening. Machiavelli once wrote, "A king does not save those who choose to be slaves. The wise do not save those who don't wish to be saved. They let silence do its work because sometimes silence is the most painful teacher a weak soul will ever meet." The lazy don't lack opportunity. They lack will. And every time you save them, both lose. They lose their chance to grow. And you lose the energy to rise higher. Not everyone who needs help deserves it. And not all coldness is cruelty. Sometimes it's the highest form of compassion in the world of power. If you've ever carried someone who refused to walk on their own, comment no more parasites, because awareness is how the strong reclaim their peace. Number 2, the ungrateful and brazen. Number 2, the ungrateful and brazen. There are people to whom you give your whole heart and they still find it not enough. You help them stand and they complain that the ground is too cold. You save them from drowning and they blame you for not swimming better. And then you realize not all kindness is repaid with gratitude. Machiavelli called it the paradox of compassion. The more you give, the more you lose your position. Not because you are weak, but because the ungrateful see kindness as duty, not as a gift. The grateful understand that a favor is voluntary. The ungrateful believe it's owed. You help them today and they smile. You stop tomorrow, they rage, because in their mind, you're not the one who saved them. You're simply their temporary servant. Listen carefully. Gratitude fades fast, and when it does, it turns into entitlement. When Machiavelli observed mankind, he saw a terrifying truth. Men forget good faster than evil, for evil hurts them, but good makes them feel indebted, and no one likes being in debt. You've met such people. They borrow your money. You lend it. They ask for help. You drop your work to assist them. At first they thank you, but slowly, gratitude fades, and one day it turns into a complaint. You didn't help enough. Not fast enough. Not the right way. And when you stop, they call you a traitor. The ungrateful don't see kindness. They see opportunity. The more you give them, the more they believe. Everything belongs to me because I deserve it. Be honest. Have you met this kind before? The ones who drain your energy and still make you feel guilty for leaving. The world is full of them. They don't need you. They need your energy. They don't want kindness. They need excuses to keep complaining. You think they're victims of life, but in truth, they're masters of emotional manipulation. They don't steal your money. They steal the meaning of generosity itself. Machiavelli once warned rulers, if a favor is not remembered, stop it before it becomes an obligation. Because once kindness becomes duty, you've already lost your power. You're no longer the giver. You're the one begging to prove your worth. And the ungrateful know this game too well. They will keep you playing as long as you stay at the table. Stop playing. When gratitude dies, the bond dies with it. There's a story Machiavelli might tell. A man pays his friend's rent for 6 months. He believes he's saving him. But in the 7th month, when he stops, the friend becomes angry. Not because the help ended, but because the gift had turned into a right. 6 months of kindness erased by one single no. That is the tragedy of those who never learn when to withdraw. The ungrateful are living proof of that paradox. The kinder you are, the more they despise you. The more patient you are, the less they respect you. They don't see kindness as grace. They see it as fuel for their sense of entitlement. Remember this: a favor not returned with gratitude will soon be repaid with contempt. Write this down. Kindness without boundaries always turns into servitude. In the game of power, Machiavelli understood this. The wise do not demand gratitude. They read it as a signal. If gratitude is absent, the relationship has already ended. A grateful person grows stronger from what you give. An ungrateful one grows weaker because they believe their strength comes from you, not themselves. And when you're gone, they'll blame the whole world for their collapse. You've seen it in love, in family, at work. You help them fly, and they forget the wings were yours. Then they fall and blame you for not holding the wind. Let that sink in. You can't save people who are addicted to being saved. Machiavelli would not be angry with them. He would simply observe and say gratitude exists only while power remains balanced. When one gives too much, respect evaporates, because human instinct never respects dependence. We only respect what we fear losing. So what should you do with the ungrateful? Not revenge, not bitterness, just silence. Withdraw your energy, not in anger, but in awareness. Because silence forces them to face the truth. The source of supply is gone. And when no one is left to give, they finally meet themselves. The empty soul that never learned appreciation. If you've ever watched your kindness turn into someone's entitlement, comment below. My silence is power. Because sometimes silence is the only language truth understands. One day they will remember you, not with love, but with awakening, because you gave them the most painful lesson of all. What happens when the flow of kindness ends, and you, instead of hatred, will smile? Because once you no longer need to be thanked, you've transcended the game of the ungrateful. You're no longer ruled by recognition. You've reached a higher freedom. Freedom from emotional dependence. That is Machiavelli's lesson. Gratitude cannot be demanded, but ingratitude must be cut off, because if you let it live, it will corrode everything good within you. So do not fear being called cold. The world doesn't need more kind people who are exhausted. It needs strong people who know when to stop, who can say calmly and clearly, "I no longer help." That's not selfishness. It's awareness and control. The two foundations of true power. And when you understand this, you'll never fear losing anyone again. Because the ungrateful can take your time, your energy, your heart, but they can never take your worth. Number 3, the arrogant and the self-satisfied. Number 3, the arrogant and the self-satisfied. There are people who never need to be saved, not because they're strong, but because they believe they can never be wrong. They listen only to respond. They ask questions only to prove they already know. And when you try to help, they look at you with pity, as if you're the one who needs enlightenment. Machiavelli knew this type well. He called them those possessed by the illusion of wisdom. They don't live by reason. They live in the shadow of their own ego. Bring them light and they turn away, because the light exposes how small they truly are. The arrogant don't fear failure. They fear someone being right. They can be poor, lonely, broken, but as long as they whisper, "I know better," they feel safe. You cannot help such a person. They don't seek help. They seek worship. Listen, the hardest people to wake are the ones still applauding themselves. Machiavelli once wrote, "The self-satisfied are not strong. They're simply too weak to admit their weakness." Every word of advice you offer is taken as an insult. They argue, resist, and reject, not to find truth, but to defend the throne inside their head. The arrogant are fogged mirrors. The more you try to clean them, the more they shatter. They'll call you jealous, disloyal, condescending, anything to avoid seeing themselves. And when they fall, they won't blame themselves. They'll blame the one who tried to warn them. You can't teach someone who's addicted to hearing their own voice. You've seen them before. A colleague who never listens, a friend who knows everything, a relative who calls your honesty disrespect. They don't want the truth. They want applause. The more you try to convince them, the deeper you're pulled into their maze. They make you doubt yourself. You start to speak more softly, afraid that the truth might hurt them. And that's when you lose your power. Because in Machiavelli's world, truth has value only when spoken to ears that can hear it. To the arrogant, every truth is an attack. He once said, "You cannot teach a man who believes he already knows. Every lesson becomes an offense." The arrogant don't learn through words, they learn through collapse. Only when they hit the ground, only when the world stops orbiting around them do they finally look up and see the light. And then they remember the one who once warned them, the one they mocked. Let them fall. Reality teaches what words never can. You don't need to hate them. Let reality do what your mercy cannot. Nothing educates faster than the collapse of pride. A Machiavellian leader never saves the arrogant. He simply holds up a mirror and walks away. Because no one can see their own face while their eyes remain closed. When you meet such a person, observe them as you would a play. Do not argue. Do not try to change them. Every word you speak will be twisted. Every good intention turned into an insult. And when they erupt in anger, smile, because that rage is not at you, but at the truth they cannot bear. Remember this. Arrogance is just fear in disguise. The louder they speak, the weaker they are. The more confident they seem, the more terrified they feel inside. But they'll never admit it, because to them humility is death. Machiavelli once said, "You cannot be the master of one who believes himself a king." That's why he chose the coldest wisdom of all. Do not intervene. Do not rescue. Observe. Wait. He knew sooner or later they would destroy their own throne. When arrogance collapses, it doesn't crumble slowly. It falls like a rotted tower. The one who once shouted, "I'm right," will whisper, "I was wrong." But if you arrive too soon, they'll build the same wall again. So let time teach what you cannot. Silence is the final teacher of the arrogant. One day, they'll sit among the ruins of their certainty and remember your silence. Not your words, but the calm way you walked away. And in that moment, they'll understand. Your silence wasn't contempt. It was a higher form of kindness. You don't need to win the argument to keep your worth. The arrogant need an audience. When you leave the stage, their performance ends. So know when to be silent. Silence is not surrender. Silence is execution. In Machiavelli's world, the wise never try to fix the self-satisfied. They withdraw with the composure of one who has already seen the ending. When you understand this, you stop being angry at the arrogant. You begin to pity them, for they live in a prison built by their own pride, holding the key they'll never use. That is the tragedy of arrogance. Machiavelli said, "No one can save a man who refuses to believe he needs saving. Let them go." Redirect your energy to those who listen, who learn, who remain humble, because only such people deserve your wisdom. If you've ever tried to warn someone who mocked you, only to fall exactly as you predicted, comment, "Silence wins." Because sometimes walking away is the loudest truth you can speak. Number 4, the evil and the cruel. Number 4, the evil and the cruel. There's a kind of person Machiavelli would never save. Not because they're ignorant, but because they know exactly what they're doing and they do it anyway. In his world, ignorance could be forgiven. But deliberate evil is never because it's no longer a mistake. It's a choice repeated, calculated, controlled. They know who they hurt. They know their words are lies. They know their actions are poison. And still they continue not from confusion but from pleasure, because cruelty gives them power. Listen closely. Evil isn't chaos. It's discipline without conscience. Machiavelli once wrote, "The wicked need not be educated. They must be stopped. When you help such a person, you're not doing good. You're supplying evil with oxygen. They'll use everything you give, your trust, your time, your pity as fuel to harm again. The evil feel no remorse. They regret only getting caught. They don't seek forgiveness, they seek shelter. And those who help them become the silent gatekeepers of darkness. You've seen it before. The betrayer trusted again. The liar offered one more chance. The manipulator is called misunderstood, and the good fall into their own trap, believing there's good in everyone. But Machiavelli never believed that. He knew some choose darkness not because they're lost, but because they prefer it. Light makes them uncomfortable because light forces them to face themselves. Stop telling yourself they'll change. Some people evolve. Others only adapt their mask. In the game of power, the evil are clever. They never arrive as monsters. They cry. They confess. They whisper, "I've changed." And you, in the name of kindness, open the door again, only for them to steal, destroy, and vanish, leaving you with broken trust and a fatigue that has no name. Machiavelli wouldn't blame you. He'd simply say, it isn't kindness that weakens you. It's undisciplined kindness. When you help the wicked, you lose more than energy. You lose moral clarity. You stop being the healer and become the enabler of darkness. Mercy without judgment is the weapon evil uses against you. The wicked don't need second chances, they need consequences. Only when the world turns its back. Only when every door closes. Only when there's no one left to exploit do they finally meet the emptiness inside themselves. But if you keep rescuing them, you delay that moment. You keep them blind. And one day you'll find yourself not far from them, lying to protect, justifying to feel good, calling weakness mercy. That's how evil spreads. Not through violence, but through misplaced compassion. The world doesn't lack good people. It lacks discerning ones, because kindness without wisdom becomes the perfect tool for the wicked. Machiavelli understood. Sometimes the most moral act is to refuse to help. Remember this: light wins only when it stops feeding the dark. If you truly want good to triumph, let darkness consume those who choose it. Look at history. Every empire that fell shared the same flaw. Evil wasn't destroyed from the outside. It was protected from within by the soft-hearted who thought they were saving. Those who believed they were helping were really shielding evil's growth. So cruelty didn't die. It just changed clothes. It put on the robe of pity, the mask of second chances. That's why Machiavelli warned, when compassion has no limits, it breeds monsters. The wicked don't fear your goodness, they fear your awareness. Because once you see clearly, you can't be controlled by emotion again. You stop fearing the word cold. You stop needing to be called kind. You become something unbearable to them, a good person with boundaries. And that's when they lose power, because evil survives only through the permission of the good. When you withdraw your trust, they suffocate. They self-destruct because darkness cannot live without an audience. If you've ever forgiven the unforgivable only to be betrayed twice, comment, "My mercy now has limits." Because awareness is the shield that turns compassion into power. If you want to see real justice, don't look to courts. Look to nature. Everything unbalanced collapses once it's no longer fed. Don't try to play God. Don't try to save the soul that chose its own prison. Just stand back. Watch. Let consequences do what mercy never can. That isn't cruelty. It's wisdom. Machiavelli called it the compassion of distance, because sometimes true love is to stop rescuing, not from coldness but from understanding. Because the price of saving the wrong person is the loss of your own soul. Number 5. The ignorant who refuse to learn. Number 5. The ignorant who refuse to learn. Two kinds of people fail. One stumbles, stands up, learns, and changes. The other stumbles, then blames the ground. The second kind, Machiavelli called the incurable fool, not because they lack intelligence, but because they reject wisdom. They don't want to understand, they want to be right. They don't seek the truth, they seek comfort for their mistakes. You've met them before. Always in crisis, losing jobs, losing friends, losing money, always betrayed, always unlucky, and they say, "I don't know why this keeps happening to me." But look closer. It's not the first time, not the second. It's a cycle repeated again and again. Listen, You can't wake someone who's addicted to their own suffering. Machiavelli would never save such people. He understood. No medicine is stronger than consequence, and no advice is weaker than words. The ignorant who refuse to learn are like those who jump into fire, then curse the flame for being hot. You can pull them out, but they'll jump again because they learned nothing the first time. They don't learn by observing. They learn only through pain. And when pain fades, they forget. They don't see the link between action and outcome because they believe life happens to them, not because of them. That is the difference between wisdom and ignorance. Take note. The fool sees patterns as accidents. The wise see destiny in repetition. The wise see patterns in everything. One careless word can destroy a relationship. One decision can change a destiny. The ignorant see nothing. They separate actions from results and therefore never take responsibility. You can tell them 1,000 times. You can explain. You can warn. They'll nod, thank you, and do the same thing again. Not because they're evil, but because they're addicted to repetition. Ignorance has its own drug, the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar is killing them. They'd rather suffer in the known than be free in the unknown. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men would rather endure pain in an old order than seek freedom in a new one." Remember this. The fool isn't lost because he can't learn. He's lost because he won't. That's why the ignorant cannot be saved. Not because they cannot understand, but because they refuse to. You can't open a door for someone who won't walk through it. They'll come to you in despair. They'll say, "I need advice." You'll believe them, but soon they'll fall again, using the same excuses, feeling the same pain. And you'll feel tired like a doctor prescribing medicine to a patient who throws it away and returns saying, "I'm still sick." You cannot heal someone who doesn't want to recover. Machiavelli would say, "Let life teach them with its whip, for your words are only wind to the fool." Let life do the teaching. Pain is the only language the fool understands. Do not save them. Let them stumble. Let them pay. Let consequences do what your compassion cannot. Because only after they've tasted enough bitterness will they begin to value understanding. The ignorant prove one thing. It's not wisdom they lack. It's discipline. You can read 1,000 books, but if you never face yourself, you remain a fool. Yet one person who makes a mistake, faces it, and learns is wiser than 100 who keep running from it. Here's your mirror. Growth doesn't start when you learn. It starts when you stop running. Machiavelli didn't believe in awakening through words. He believed in awakening through collision. Sometimes kindness is stepping back and letting someone hit bottom. Because only at the bottom do people decide to rise. Remember this. If you save them before they're ready, they'll drag you down, not out of malice, but out of ignorance. They don't know how to swim. Don't let your compassion become a chain. Don't waste your intellect on those who refuse to think. Wisdom means nothing if it's poured into emptiness. Keep it for the minds that listen, for the souls that seek, and for the fools. Let time teach what you cannot. Machiavelli once said, "You cannot save the fool, but you can avoid becoming one because of him." That's the greater lesson. If you've ever tried to guide someone who refused to change, comment, "I let life teach." Because silence sometimes delivers what words never can. Do not hate them. Do not despise them. Just don't let them pull you down. Because every time you bend down to lift someone who refuses to stand, you leave your position of power. And once you step too low, it's harder to rise again. Sometimes to protect your wisdom, you must walk away in silence. Not to judge, but to guard your mind from the endless loop of those who never learn. That's not coldness. It's the selection of the wise. Because if you spend your life on those who refuse to learn, you'll have nothing left for those who truly wish to change. And Machiavelli would say that is the greatest betrayal of all. Not against them, but against wisdom itself. Number 6. The manipulator. Number 6. The manipulator. It's not the evil nor the foolish who exhaust you the most. It's the one who makes you believe they need saving. They don't use violence. They use emotion. They don't steal your trust. They make you want to give it. Machiavelli called them the masters of pretense. They don't steal your wallet. They steal your will. They don't demand. They make you feel guilty for saying no. And they always know how to tell a story tragic enough, painful enough, noble enough to make you want to become the hero in their tale. When you meet such a person, they never ask directly. They begin with weakness. I don't know how to get through this. I'm not as strong as you. They make you feel special, as if you're the only one who understands them. And in that moment, they've already hooked their first string into your heart. You think you're helping, but you're already trapped in their web. Because once emotion attaches, reason fades. You stop asking, are they sincere? And start thinking, they need me. Listen, manipulation never begins with control. It begins with sympathy. Machiavelli would observe and say, the manipulator's genius lies in this. They make you commit the foolish act yourself while believing it's kindness. Manipulators understand human nature perfectly. They know you crave being seen as good. They know you fear being called. They know that one sigh at the right time will make you do the rest. Then they make you sacrifice. You give your time, your money, your energy, but most of all your attention. Because attention is the currency of power. Whoever controls your emotions controls you. Once they have that, they don't need to ask for more. They just sit still and you do the rest. Running, explaining, apologizing, fixing, carrying a weight that was never yours. Pause for a second. If they control your emotions, they already own your freedom until one day you feel drained but terrified to lose them. That's when they've won. Not by strength but by obsession. The manipulator doesn't care about the truth. They care about the outcome. If they can make you feel guilty, they win. If they can make you feel the need to prove yourself, they win. If they can make you justify your own actions, they've already taken your power. They switch roles effortlessly. Today, the victim, tomorrow the hero, next week the judge, and you are always the one who must make it right. Machiavelli called it the role-shifting art of soft power. They never need to threaten because emotion binds tighter than chains. You'll even start defending them. They didn't mean it, they're just hurt. They're not bad, just lost. But every excuse you make is another link in the chain around you. Ask yourself, how many chains have you built in the name of empathy? And when you're finally empty, they'll leave without guilt. Worse, they'll tell others you hurt them because manipulators never exit quietly. They always need a new stage, a new villain to blame. Machiavelli wouldn't pity you. He'd say, the manipulated is not a victim, but one who lacks the courage to face the truth. And the truth is this: you cannot save someone who uses you as their tool. You cannot help someone whose survival depends on draining you. You have only one choice. Cut the strings, no warnings, no explanations, no pleas for understanding. They already understand. They just don't care. Your silence is their end. When you stop reacting, the show is over. Because when you go quiet, they lose the stage, the control, the audience. Remember this: the manipulator doesn't need your love, they need your reaction. Every response is energy. When you stop reacting, they vanish like smoke. A Machiavellian does not rage. He observes. He studies the pattern. And then he withdraws calmly, quietly, because he knows when you stop reacting, you take back your power. Write this down. Detachment isn't coldness. It's protection. The manipulator is the final test of kindness. They force you to choose between emotion and logic, between saving them and protecting yourself. If you choose wrong, they'll teach you the most expensive lesson of all. Kindness without limits is emotional suicide. Machiavelli would conclude, not everyone who stirs your sympathy deserves your help. Some deserve only your distance and the mirror of their own reflection. When you're cold enough to walk away, you don't lose empathy. You reclaim dignity because manipulators can exist only when others fear loneliness. And when you no longer fear being alone, you become something they can never touch, a free soul. If you've ever cut the strings of someone who drained you, comment, silence is my freedom. Because the moment you stop reacting, you start ruling your own life. Conclusion: the ultimate truth of kindness. When Machiavelli looked at mankind, he didn't see angels. He saw illusions. He saw people mistaking weakness for kindness and guilt for love. He warned, When kindness surpasses intelligence, it becomes a weapon against its owner. You were not born to save everyone. You were born to discern who is worth saving, because helping the wrong person doesn't make you good. It only delays their growth and destroys your strength. True compassion is not endless giving. It's knowing when to close your heart before it bleeds out everything wise inside it. Coldness is not cruelty. It's intelligence protecting its energy. And once you understand that, you no longer feel guilty for walking away. You simply whisper, "I don't turn my back because I hate you. I turn away because you need a lesson I cannot teach." That is the final law, the law of disciplined kindness, the law of Machiavellian compassion. When you master it, you stop chasing approval. You stop rescuing chaos. You become free, calm, clear, and untouchable. If this truth awakened something in you, comment, "I choose awareness over guilt." And remember, no one saves anyone. We only point the way. Thank you for walking this path of power. I'll see you in the next video where we uncover another ruthless law of the Machiavellian mind. Power isn't born from kindness. It's born from clarity.